Let's say you make 50k or 100k that year, all your expenses was 100k.
Wow.
You don't pay any taxes. That hurts you in the long run. The banks, you have to understand that banks are in the business of making money and keeping money. If you are buying to one day pay off your mortgage, the game is time. Because of the pent-up demand in the market, a lot of people are waiting. So if rates drop to a certain threshold, the market is going to go up again. If you upgrade your mindset, you start to attract those things in that mindset level.
In today's episode, we're looking at how founders, entrepreneurs, even professionals can build wealth. Today, I have an amazing realtor serving Ontario and I believe Canada as a whole, Olumide Somide.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on the FilAfrik Podcast. I'm hoping we would get as much as time allows us to get from you because you're quite an amazing person and I see the work you do, in that space, So thank you for coming on the episode today.
Thank you, brother.
So let's pretty dive in real quick, right? Because there's a lot to get from you. There's a lot to learn about real estate, even as an entrepreneur, even as a professional, right? This episode is pretty much for everyone. Let's look at what does it mean, maybe in a sentence or more, what does it mean to buy strategically in Ontario or maybe in Canada, right? Because I know sometimes based on the whole provincial differences, right? But it's up to you. You know the business, you know the market more, right? But whether it's Ontario or in Canada, how do we position ourselves to buy strategically?
So how does it mean to buy strategically? So if you're saying buying strategically in the sense of positioning yourself the right way to buy.
Yeah.
I always tell my clients, especially those who are maybe entrepreneurs or may not have a 9 to 5. When you are buying, there are a lot of things you have to get in order.
And that's mostly what people are, right? The community we're building.
Exactly. So, a lot of things. So things like understanding how the banks view you as opposed to view someone who is employed.
Right.
Understanding your income, net income versus gross income, your taxes, things like that. But in a nutshell, I'll just say it's not just to buy. It's not just about buying. It's about buying something you can actually afford. And those can be two very different things because a lot of people who get into a property and find out that, I can't actually afford this house, and then they're in trouble and they're having issues. So I'll just say, since we're just starting.
Yeah, we're just starting.
I won't go too deep.
Right.
I'll just say, buy what you can afford.
Okay, at least that's a good way to define the game, as it were, right? Yeah. But then, what would be the 3 pillars you would want anyone to master before they start, right? Would it be credit? Would it be cash flow? Or down payments, mindset, documentation? What would be your 3? And it could be anything from outside what I've just said.
Okay. I say the first thing would be definitely mindset.
Right.
Your mindset creates a lot of things around your life. Sometimes people think it's just about the action. But there's a saying I heard from someone that it says, be, do, have. So you have to first be a person.
Do, have.
Be, do, and then have. So basically you have to first be the thing that by being that thing, you then find yourself making those actions. Right. And that's the do part. And then when you make those actions, then you begin to have. But if you don't become the person that can, let's say, buy $1 million house or the $2 million house, you probably wouldn't do the things, you won't have the actions, you won't have the habits that lead you to becoming that kind of person. And then obviously you won't have the thing you're looking for. So your mindset is very important. And the second thing is your finances. So you need to really understand what are your finances. And when I say finances, I don't just mean what do you make. I mean, what do you net? How does the bank look at you? Because the banks, for instance, as an entrepreneur, the bank looks at you as someone who makes income, has expenses, and then nets an amount, right? So what is your net amount and how do banks help people who are entrepreneurs to purchase property? So for instance, we have 3 levels of banks. I can just quickly say that. So there's A banks, those are the TDs, Scotia Bank and all the big 5. And then there's the B banks who are mostly credit unions and local banks. So usually like Libro, banks like that.
Right, yeah.
And then you have obviously C lenders or private lenders. Those usually are individuals or a group of people who lend short term to other people. So A banks are usually the most stringent when it comes to offering loans to people. B banks are a little bit more flexible and usually fall within the category where entrepreneurs use.
Okay.
And then C lenders are usually the ones you go to when A and B don't want to take you.
Exhausted. All options are exhausted.
Exactly.
Right.
So you need to know how they look at you. For instance, an A bank would say they need to get 2 years of your notice of assessment, which is like your tax receipts or your tax refund or your whatever you have for your past 2 years. They will average that out, and then that will be your income. So I had a lot of people get advice that says, okay, when you come in, don't file your tax, expense everything.
Wow, don't file your tax.
File your tax, but like expense everything.
Okay, everything.
So let's say you make 50K or 100K that year. All your expenses was 100K.
Wow.
Right? You don't pay any taxes. That hurts you in the long run because now you've missed a year, and that means if you want to buy a house, you need to wait 2 more years from an A lender.
Right.
The second way is a B lender would use typically your income. So they may be able to take your statements and maybe take it for a full year or 2 years, average that out, and then look at your debt service. So what are the things you are paying every day? So if it looks like your debt service is way more than what you can afford, then you probably want to give it, but there's a problem there. Yeah. Right. And then obviously a C lender is what I don't recommend people going into. It's usually like a Hail Mary when everything else has fallen apart. You've gone into the deal, you're too far, you can't come out. Then you may need some assistance on that end.
And I know there are consequences. They're pretty on the higher side for interest and all.
Okay. It's crazy.
Right. That's a conversation for
another day. Yeah, I have stories, don't worry.
Wow, okay, maybe we should tap into some of those stories today, even if they're anonymous, right? Because we will learn a thing or two from that. So looking at entrepreneurs or those who are still at the ideation stage of wanting to get into the entrepreneurial journey, right? And they're sitting on the fence as to getting into, entrepreneurship versus maybe, maintaining their 9 to 5 just because they feel, just like you said, I get into this, I'm likely to lose, those perks of being an employee, right? In line with getting, say, their own first home, right? What's your view?
So my view is like, first of all, if you have a job, you have an advantage in terms of getting a mortgage. Number one, you get a mortgage from a good bank, which is an A bank. Yeah. Their rates are usually lower, and it's easier to qualify for them. So if you're in a situation where you have a job currently, but you're planning on working on an entrepreneurial venture, I would say get pre-approved, buy the house using the job while you work on that on the other side. Because it's easier to get approved that way than just coming out totally. So for people that are just entrepreneurs, maybe they don't have a job, that process might take a few years to get into because they have to have a certain level of active income and file a certain amount for taxes to qualify for the house that they want. So
all right, that's fine. Because I know Ella, you were saying something about even consulting a mortgage broker.
Yeah.
While we have him, on the episode, we might as well ask very quickly too. What's the difference between a realtor, a mortgage broker, a mortgage specialist? What else is in this mix?
There's even regular broker.
Right.
That could even be a realtor too sometimes, right? So some people call realtor. So it's just the way people name things, to be honest. Okay. So there's a realtor or someone who helps you in the transaction. Those people broker the deals, right? So they help you broker the deal between the buyer and the seller.
Okay.
There's a mortgage broker specialist. Some people call themselves specialists, and it's the same thing. But those ones broker deals between banks for their clients. So they are both brokers in the sense that they broker things together. But it's just what's the broker that is different. That's the only difference. Yeah.
Then there's still those who are referred to underwriters.
So underwriters are usually work closer with the lender. Okay. So they're the ones who. So a broker comes and says, "Hey, this is my file. I have this person. This is what they make. Blah blah blah." So the underwriter now does the numbers on that deal, and now based off of the organization's criteria, now say, okay, based on this person is good or not.
All right. So that's some sound knowledge right there. Okay, so let's look at some wealth decisions, right? Because you have lived experience. Rent versus buy in Ontario. Let's say most of Ontario, right?
Okay.
What would be your? Because I'm saying Ontario because I know both of us are right now in Ontario, right? Yeah. So, what's your decision framework so people don't become house poor?
That's a very serious question. I have to say, like, very, very important question because it has changed over the years. In, let's say, 2018, 2019, the market was far different from what we are today. Pre-COVID, things were much, much easier to calculate. So, in the sense that in London, for example, you could buy a house of $400,000, pay the mortgage comfortably. The mortgage would probably be like maybe $2,000.
Right.
And that would have been cheaper than paying rent at the time.
Yes.
It would have been cheaper than paying rent. Today I'm finding, and as a realtor, you're not meant to say this, but I'll tell you the truth.
Right. Because we keep it real here.
Keep it real, bro. So honestly, buying, so it depends on the why, right? Because if it's just purely numbers, buying may not really make sense for a lot of people. Because the rent, what you're getting for rent, you can get a better house, bigger house, backyard, everything, for less money, less responsibility, and less headache, right? When you own it, that means you own the maintenance, you own the everything is on your head, right?
Right.
And the problem is that the rates haven't come down to a point where it looks like you can compare them. Right now, rent is just better. But when you're thinking long term in terms of wealth, that's a different situation. So if you are buying to one day pay off your mortgage, right, the game is time, right? And the thing about Canada is that our rates change with terms. So you know how you have a 30-year mortgage, and then there's 5-year terms, right? So every 5 years something can happen. In that case, I would advise, if you can afford it at the current state, just do it now. Because you know that after 5 years, the market should adjust and then the rates come down. But now you already own a house. But if you wait till that 5-year time, what happens is that because of the pent-up demand in the market, a lot of people are waiting. So if rates drop to a certain threshold, the market is going to go up again. Right. So that's just my advice. So buy and sell depends on your situation, honestly.
Okay. So really, that's very interesting, right? Because I know I was going to also ask about some of the biggest traps, but hearing you already did mention some of the things people normally don't anticipate, and I'm also saying that from experience, also interacting with people, and probably my own living experience, right? Because I know when I was renting and my hydro bill, it's totally different from what I'm paying now, and then. And the thing too with this thing is sometimes no matter how much you're educated, it still feels like you never get enough of it until you begin to experience it. And it's
where we come from, man. It's ingrained in us already. Ownership of a home, ownership of it, and it's not a bad thing. Right? It's a very good thing to strive for. But it seems as though the landscape has changed, so you have to figure out a way to gain that system. Right, that's the difference that I'm saying.
Nice. Okay, so let's look at negotiations, right? Okay. How we can make things happen. What does great negotiation look like, right, in real estate today? What are the things buyers don't realize that they have? Okay, right, and this is. You have that world of experience. You've seen how it is on both sides. So what's that leverage buyers have that they most times don't realize that they do have? Okay, well, today I'll tell you is the buyer's market. So basically what buyer's market means is that we have more people trying to sell homes than there are buyers available for it. So buyers have a choice. There's so many options they can choose from. Right. There are times where it's a seller's market, which was just after COVID. Buyers didn't have any choices. They were bidding over asking, all kinds of crazy things were going on. But right now, I would say if I'm a buyer, I'm going to be looking for deals, right? Because I don't care what they listed the price in the house for. Seriously, because the truth is there are not as many buyers out there. There are not as many buyers for the sellers. So I'm looking for discounts,
I'm looking for concessions. So things like, maybe they want to take their gazebo. I say, I want the gazebo, right? So things like that you can use to negotiate. Also, closing timeline. Sometimes people have to leave where they are. Maybe they are renting. The landlord said you have to leave in 3 months, but the closing is a month too. So you negotiate the closing, push it out longer. There are many things you can do like that.
Right.
In terms of maybe repairs, now the use of inspections to get concession is generally frowned upon, like in the real estate community.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'll tell you that today you can do some of that. It's just the nature of
what it is today.
Exactly.
Right.
So maybe you did an inspection, you found out that okay, there's an issue with the plumbing, and you say, okay, you know what, you guys either chip in and fix it, or you take off $10,000 from our price.
That's
Just
interesting.
things like that. Yeah.
So clearly tells you you're considering getting into the market. Just run to the man, because you share some things that I pretty much wouldn't have been able to come up with those ideas, and that's because again that's his market, that's what he does, right? Let's look at. You did mention who we are when you were trying to explain, that whole renting versus owning.
Yeah.
And it could be a cultural thing, right? For the most part, the average black person, there are those values and ingrained culture that we've come to Canada with, right? That we carry with us everywhere and anywhere. What's your advice on balancing cultural expectations with wise timing and even affordability as well?
That's a very good question. You're right. A lot of Africans, like I said, come in with, in a year I want to own, 2 years I want to own. It's a very good thing to aspire to.
Right.
But you have to know that there are factors applied to it. Like imagine someone trying to buy a house, but you don't understand the credit system here. Right? You don't know the consequences of missing your mortgage. About people that have been in some interesting situations, they stop paying condo fees, then they stop paying all their utilities, eventually they stop paying their mortgage because the rates went up. They were on a variable mortgage, they didn't know. They got a variable mortgage. They didn't know. So they got a variable mortgage, didn't understand the consequences, rates shot up, they couldn't afford it, and then eventually they lost the house. So what was the point? They lost their down payment.
Yeah.
They lost all the time, the stress, the effort.
Everything they put in.
Because they wanted to own a house. So those kind of people are better off renting, understand the system, get enough down payment and knowledge, and then go into buy. So yes, the cultural thing is there, but you need to know more than just the surface level what you're doing, or work with someone who does, and they're able to advise you. In that situation, unfortunately, they had a mortgage broker that wasn't one in my team. So there are situations where a buyer may want to work with someone that they feel like they know or they can get a deal from, and the guy just messed them up. All he wanted was just money from them.
Right.
So he just told them all kinds of things. They came back to me and said, "Oh, we are approved, we are good, we are ready to go." But we found out that it was a very bad deal that they got. Very, very bad deal that they got. So that's what I would say.
And that's something you find even in other industries too. So it's always careful, because I remember on a previous episode too, when we had a one on the podcast, it was something we also talked about. The credibility of the people we work with and do business with. It's really important, and I do hope that you watching and listening, you're learning to consult with the right people, right? Not just any random person. Most of these industries too, and let me also ask, is that something that applies to the real estate market? How can you tell someone who is accredited?
So sadly, I'm not lying, sadly the barrier to entry, I think, is a little bit low.
Okay.
So in terms of getting a real estate license, you just take a few exams and you're good. Imagine comparing that to being a doctor, where you have to spend years.
Right.
So a lot of actors that are not really the best for everyone coming. But another thing you can use is, I think a huge thing is reviews or past experiences. I won't even really say years in the business, because someone who has been doing this for 20 years, if you keep doing it the way you done 20 years ago, you know what's going on, right? But you want to talk to the people that have done business in the past, see their track record. Absolutely. The good thing about realtors is that they're everywhere, right? Our business is to make ourselves known to other people. So there's nowhere to run to, right? So everything is out there. But just make sure that person is doing business well. You talk to people they've worked with in the past, and those people give good reviews.
And to add to that, right? It's for anyone who's consistently watched the FilAfrik podcast. One thing we would always emphasize will be community, and most times it comes from the part of the guest. But now, truly, it's one of those moments where you have to take that responsibility of being a part of your community. Because I'm just imagining the story you just gave. If that person was plugged into his community, there's no way you wouldn't have found one or two persons you could have also asked questions. Exactly. To say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what this person is even saying to me. Does it sound like what you also did? Right? Exactly. So, and you're in the community and you're asking, I would love to do this. Who can you refer me to? Right? Yeah. And it's okay to ask 2-3 people, sample opinions, and like you also mentioned, Google review or whatever review it is to now make your decision. Because, man, to put in your sweat,
it's painful. In fact, we got a buyer because I was on the seller side, right?
Right.
We got a buyer. Those guys have got a moving truck. They've got everything ready. Whoa. The day of closing, the lawyers reach out to us and tell us that, you know what, we can't actually close on this house because the lenders are saying the amount you guys are paying for this house, we can't go with it. So what happened was that they forced them to sell or to repossess the house initially. So I got involved at that point, and I'm like, okay, let's try and sell this house. We did all we could, we got a buyer, but because of the nature of the market at the time, the price we got was lower than what they paid for. So the lender said, no, this is not what we loaned you. We can't go ahead with the deal. So we had to cancel that other deal. The lenders had to take the house and try and sell it, and I checked, they sold it for the same price. So it's like, why all this stress? Why all this road going all around? So just get it right the first time. That's what I'm just saying.
Get it right the first time. Wisdom is profitable to direct.
Yes.
God would always. And how can that young entrepreneur, by young I mean length of time being in that journey, how can they use real estate as a tool for wealth creation, especially in this climate
right now? Apart from everything I've just said, I still think real estate is a good option for people to build wealth as long as they just do it well. That's the only thing.
So any strategy you want to share?
Yeah. So for number one, always buy way below what the property price would typically be. So the biggest way to get ahead in a purchase is how much you buy it. If you buy it well, you save yourself a lot of headache along the way. Because let's say, for instance, you buy a house is listed 700,000, and you're able to get a deal for maybe 750, which is a lot right now. That $50,000, it takes a lot for a market to drop to $50,000. So already you've almost bought instant equity in that property, aside your down payment. Now, along the course of that mortgage, while you keep, you're paying your mortgage and everything, the market may go up. If it goes up, all well and good for you. If it comes down, you don't end up losing your initial equity that you've put in.
Right.
So one of the strategies is always look for a very, very good deal. And I would say I help a lot of my clients get very, very good deals.
Because sometimes you don't even know.
You don't even know what a good deal is. Yeah, because if you're in the market every day, you see this household for this household for this. Oh, this will be a good deal. I've helped people get even almost, I think one of the most I did was $80,000 below asking. And it was such a good deal. Like, they were so happy about it. I'm telling you, it was crazy. So make sure you get a very good deal. And I know a lot of people feel like, let me just say this, reaching out to the seller agents does not pay.
As
a buyer, as a buyer, you want to buy a house, and you call the seller agent. A lot of people don't understand that the seller agent has an agreement signed with the seller to get them the most they can get for that house. So whatever they tell you is not the best for you. Right? But people, I don't know from our...
It's psychological.
Yeah, they feel like, okay, you know what? I can get a good deal if I combine it. Maybe the guy will make more money, so he'll be willing to give me a good deal. It doesn't work that way. So I tell people, even if it's just for a consultation, speak to a buyer agent. It doesn't cost you, at least right now. In the US right now, people are paying their buyer agents for transactions.
Yeah, and that's why in Canada we don't.
We don't do that right now, but
we're saying right now. Looks like it's coming.
I think it's coming.
Oh yeah,
I think it's coming because US is like, US will do something. It takes a few years, Canada will copy it.
Makes
so
sense.
I'm already planning my mind to that's probably how it's going to be.
Right.
In Nigeria, I think that's what happens too, right? The buyer people will pay their person,
the seller person,
right?
Yes.
So, don't go to the seller agent. Have somebody in your corner that, see, the thing is, realtors don't get paid until the transaction
has happened, right?
So, regardless of what happens, they have to deliver results. Unless, if they don't deliver those results, nobody gets paid, transaction doesn't happen. So trust me and best believe that they are doing all they can to get that transaction closed. So that's my advice for that.
And then again, a very good person would be careful about their reputation too.
I expect that. Yes.
That's interesting. But then when we hear people say things like buy a house, maybe live in it a year or two, sell and all that as one of those strategies. I'm only sharing what I've heard.
Yeah.
Right? So what's that one thing? And okay, something else too I was gonna ask you too, right? When I was preparing for this would be when we look at getting wealth, right? Community wealth. Let's even look at community wealth, right? Because again, it starts from smaller networks.
Yeah.
What would be your advice on doing that, gaining wealth as a community?
Okay, so
I may have only 2,000, but again, I know my 2,000 enough. What's your take? Yeah.
So I've actually been involved in transactions where a group of friends come together.
Nice, I like this.
Buy property, and after a few years, sell it, gather the money, buy another one, keep growing. Those things work, always work, but you have to have a lot of trust and definitely documentation for the way those things are organized. It's doable. Create a company, you guys put your funds together, the percentage of funds, usually I would advise everything should be 50-50.
Right.
But the percentage of funds are put together and then you now buy something. That could be one. The other one you were alluding to was the strategy of, it's almost like house hacking, but basically you buy a house, let's say a house like this, you live in it a year. In Canada, you're allowed to stay for at least a year before you move to another place. Move to somewhere else, rent out what you bought. The good thing about it is that you're allowed to put down a minimum of 5% on your primary residence in Canada.
Okay.
So if you're moving to another house that you're going to live in, you can put down at least 5%. Up to I think 1.5. So sorry for cutting
No.
So there's a $500 cap, $500,000 cap,
right?
After which is 10%, and then that goes all the way to 1.5%. They just moved it to 1.5 million. Sorry, they just moved it to 1.5 million. So there are people who, we're a young family. Our next goal for the next 5 years is to purchase 5 houses, and we don't mind moving every year. And they do it, get their 5 houses, and then they're done. Start paying off mortgage. People will do that because again, if you're going to invest, talking about investments, you have to put down at least 20% down. So the amount you're going to put down to live in the house is usually less than you put down to invest in property.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if you put down too little, your mortgage, your overhead will be high.
Yeah.
Compared to the investment property, because you put down 20%. So again, you have to balance those factors and figure out.
You want to balance.
It's very individual.
Trying to keep it short too, because I know, even now too, I'm not even sure what the rental market is like. Imagine penning down that this is my path, and then only to realize that it's also not easy finding someone to rent your home.
Yeah, so again, a lot of the factors are the market. There's if you draw a pie chart, half of that pie chart is the market. Those are the factors that affect what you can do, what you cannot do. The other half are now your own strategies and the ways you take it. Ultimately, real estate is a very long game. So, if you're going with that mindset, you're always going to be okay. Take one strategy, try it out for the next 2, 3, 4 years. Stick to it. Ultimately, as long as you are owning real estate for a long enough period, eventually you're going to get to the wealthy place. That's basically how I see it.
Okay, that's nice, right? Because that already sounds like it's beyond just a principle, that's an advice to anyone watching and listening.
Yeah.
Right? This real estate is still the one way to go, right? In building wealth. I'm enjoying this episode, but let's begin to wrap things up, right? Because again, we could go on and on. Let's look at rapid questions. It's something we do on the FilAfrik Podcast.
Okay.
So, one word that describes your mission.
My mission. Is it my business mission or my personal mission?
You as a person.
Okay, so me as a person, I'm a Christian, right? So one of my biggest things is to reveal Christ in anything I'm doing. I don't have it penned down like a nice sentence or anything, but really, I feel like if God gives you gifts, God gives you talent, God gives you opportunities, it's your responsibility. So make sure that every one of those things are featured. One of my biggest stories in the Bible is the one about the talents. They gave one person 5, gave one 3. They all invested and doubled what they had, right? So I feel like and the funny thing is that where you get most of your fulfillment is in doubling those gifts that you've been given. Your fulfillment will come from serving what you have. You have a talent, you can talk, you have business acumen. Make sure you serve it, give it out, right? And that brings all the fulfillment you need. So that's my biggest thing.
That's right there. Nice, amazing.
Thank you, sir.
Best money lesson you learned the hard way. So that somebody else can learn from your lessons.
Okay,
right.
I'll say best money lesson is automate things. So, as a person, like my mind just works all over the place sometimes, right? So I found initially when I came, credit card bills are not getting paid. I wasn't doing. It's not like I didn't have the money. I just forgot to do it, right? And it affected my credit. So, financial lesson: just create automation on your bank account, or your bank app.
Yeah.
Say, okay, every month send some amount. You already know what the minimum is, so just do a higher one, and you're covered.
Right.
And it will help you save and not have to think about it. One day you just check and like, oh wow, I've saved this amount or I've paid all this amount. So automate things. That's one of the big ones for me.
That's amazing. That's a good one.
Yeah.
A belief about real estate you had to unlearn, even as a realtor.
So number one was always be buying, right? I had a belief. I asked my wife when we started. We were like every year we must buy a house, right? It's not a bad goal to have. So we started with it, and we found out that we were house rich and cash poor because all the money was going into down payment. And the truth is, you have to be more strategic, especially in this market. It's not every year you're buying. It's not every deal that makes sense. So you have to flip it and change it from always be buying to have your criteria. So let's say you're an investor now. You tell yourself, you know what? If I don't make a cash flow of $500 net, I'm not doing any deal. So that way, if a deal comes and like the house is very cheap, maybe it's 100,000, but you know that you can only rent it for X amount,
right,
and your mortgage will be X amount,
right,
that difference is not netting what you need. You won't do the deal. So make sure that you have your own personal criteria that you use to find deals, so that when they come, you know them and then you go into them. So that's
nice. I like that. I like that. I've also learned from now, so not just for the one watching, right?
Yeah.
So what's the most underrated wealth habit for diaspora entrepreneurs?
The most underrated wealth habit. Wow, I'll say the most underrated one I'm finding now is grants. Like there's a lot of grants for black entrepreneurs. That maybe it's not a habit, but it's something I just realized.
Yeah. That
I feel like a lot of people can partake in.
Right.
So look out for grants, look out for those opportunities. It will shock you that Canada is willing to do a lot for black entrepreneurs. But in terms of wealth habits, again, it's always mindset. Upgrade your mindset. If you upgrade your mindset, you start to attract those things in that mindset level. So if you upgrade your mindset to a mindset of a millionaire, your environment will reflect that. But if you have a mindset of someone struggling or someone just starting out, someone just trying, so let me just see how it goes, everything will reflect that. The way you treat your customers reflect that. The way you work, the way the things you do, the things you decide to do will all affect that. So make sure you have a higher mindset to upscale what you're doing.
Makes sense. All right. What's one resource you recommend for financial growth?
University of YouTube.
I agree. I agree.
University of YouTube.
Just when you're there, also sift through what you're watching.
Oh yeah, of course, yes.
Right.
There's a lot of good stuff.
Absolutely. What's your go-to principle when making big decisions?
Obviously, to pray,
Okay.
think about it, and then seek counsel. So look for people who've done it or who are ahead of you, and seek counsel from them.
Right.
And don't rush into anything. Like one of the big things is I learned is that very few decisions in life are do or die, right? And very few decisions in life are urgent, unless maybe life or death situations. If someone wants you to sign something now, sign that. Just give me a day. Let me think about it. So I subscribe to that. Don't rush anything.
Yeah.
If we are rushing you, there is a high chance there's a deception somewhere that you don't know about. So that's I'll say for me. Yeah.
I completely agree with you. In fact, it's even completely agree with you.
Experience.
Several experiences, right, where I've come to agree finally that see, there's no, like you said, no do or die.
No do or die.
Sometimes, even in the health area too, you know, you just show up. And then doctor just, we need to do something now. Calm down. Look at this thing. Well, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So completely, I agree with you. So one final question: what's that one sentence you want every listener to remember after this episode?
I have like 100 sentences.
Okay, go for it.
Let me just say the one. I think one thing that this is what I'm currently working on. Maybe I can talk about that.
Right.
Is the concept of be to have.
Okay.
I've been saying it throughout this podcast. Let me just say it again. So you can't be more than who you already are. Like you can't have things that you are not. I don't know if you know people who, let's say someone is in a realm, let's say their income per year is like $100,000. If you give that person $1 million, just take, right? The problem with that is that, and we see it with lotto winners a lot, their mindset doesn't know what to do with $1 million.
Yes.
So instead of chasing for $1 million, upgrade your mindset to a mindset of somebody who makes $1 million. Find out what they do. Find out how they think, how they look at money, how they look at relationships, how they look at productivity, and then use that, grow your mindset. If you grow your mindset enough, you get to that realm. So I find a lot of people are doing it the opposite. They're chasing after the thing, but their mindset is rejecting it because they haven't grown to that level. So it's not a sentence, a concept.
No, it's amazing. And then, you know, because as you said it now, I just remembered one of the quotes from my pastor. He would say, until you change a man's mind, you cannot change his state. No. And therefore cannot change his estate.
Exactly.
And, you know, what you said just corroborates it. Absolutely.
It's a very powerful. The world uses it, like, you know, and they remove God from it. But I feel like it's just like a principle of the world, the universe that God has created, right? So just grow your mindset, get resources that help you to do that. Yeah. Find out the actions. How do they think about this? How do they think about that? And change your mind. It will help you get to where you're looking for. Faster.
Absolutely. It's true. Well, it's been an amazing time, right? There's been several things to learn from. I personally have learned a whole lot, really, and I'm very grateful. Thank you so much, Olumide. He's trying to be humble. There's still a lot more for me to learn, right? Which I'll keep learning behind the scenes, right? And I'm holding on to this man so strongly. But then again, because we have people who I'm sure they've learned several things too today, where can they find you, right? I know, yes, they can reach out to FilAfrik and say, hey, get me connected to Olumide, but we're not here to gatekeep, right? Where can people find you?
I mean, mostly I'm on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram. Okay. Sold by Olu. That's my
Sold by Olu. SOLD by Olu. OLU.
Yes. And then honestly, you can just call me on my phone number. 416-500-7511.
I don't know how many people will just give out their phone numbers on the podcast.
Well, I'll tell you, realtors do. Because we already get a bunch of phone calls, so it's fine.
Right.
So I'll tell you, 416-500-7511. You can give me a call. We can talk about your situation and figure out the best way to help you.
Nice. Yeah. That's amazing. Well, you heard from the man. You know where to find him. Please reach out to him. This year, you have that value network. You guys come together. Your 1,000 might not be enough, but imagine 10 of you putting your 1,000 each. That's 10,000, right? your dream of owning a property, right? It's possible. There are several things I know he hasn't shared, and again, partly because I didn't ask some of those questions too, right? Because I've learned from him some hacks too that you can always use, in this whole thing. So let this 2026 be the year you make those bold moves. Remember, wisdom as well would guide you. So this has been the FilAfrik Podcast. If you did enjoy this episode, please feel free, like, comment, ask your questions, share this podcast with a friend, family, another entrepreneur somewhere who really needs this information. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Olumide. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Really, it has been a pleasure. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.